We are back live once again on the Cheap Heat Productions podcast empire. My name is Jack Kilby, no gimmicks guy on the socials. And today I have a guest that I've been looking forward to interviewing for a number of months, because I think for those of us of a certain generation, especially those in Ontario and the Northeast United States, he represents an iconic figure. If you either went out to the bars and clubs on a weekend in the 90s or were, like myself, working in the bars and clubs in the 90s and came home, flipped on the TV, and usually, you know, there's a lot of boring stuff on there, or there was, but this man was anything but boring and has quite a cult following now in 2025. We're going to get into what he's doing now, and most notably, we're going to find out everything about how he became the undisputed king of the infomercials in the 90s, but he is known as the Prince of Love, Mr. David Bronstein. David, welcome to the show.
Jack, thank you so much for having me on. It's Jack, right? I know it's Jack. Who is this, Andrea? Yes, I know it's Jack. I know who I'm talking to. Jack, I'm thrilled to have me on the show. I can't wait to tell all your fantastic fans my nutty story.
Well, that's a really good place to start, like at the beginning. And I'd like you, if possible, to take us back to the mid 90s to talk about how you first came upon the concept of the dial-a-date infomercial. Previous to that, there were, of course, personal ads and phone. What do you call it? Phone sex, phone
976
I was trying to be funny there. Those 976 numbers, but dial-a-date was something that burst on and really captured everyone's attention. So if you could start with how you landed on that concept, and then I'll ask you how you came to be known as, or developed the Prince of Love, as you said in all your shows.
So I'm a performer. I'm an actor. That's all I am. And I'm from Philadelphia. So being in Philly, going to New York, going to Catacall auditions, hoping for that big break on Broadway. I was working in the Catskill Mountains, which was upstate New York. I was part of a comedy team like Jerry Lewis and Dean Martin. And I was performing up there at different hotels and resorts, where I met my wife up there in the Catskills. It was like Dirty Dancing. And after I left many summers of working there, I met my wife is from Toronto. She's from Canadian. But we moved back to Philly. I'm going to New York. And my in-laws, who lived in Toronto, said, Dave, why don't you come to Toronto? They're making movies in every corner, because Hollywood was coming to Toronto shooting films because of the American dollar was so strong. And I thought, well, I have in-laws here. I have a place to live, because I don't want to live in New York at a rat-infested 2x2. I've always liked comfort. So I thought, well, if I come to Canada, and when I would come to visit, I would see all these movies all over the neighborhoods and in the Toronto Sun. I said, all right, so I'll come here. I'll become a big fish in a small pond, and then I'll go to Hollywood. So that was the goal. So when I came to Toronto, I was very lucky. I got an agent. My agent was like William Morris, which is the big agency. And I did a movie with Al Pacino called Sea of Love. I was his stand-in during the whole movie. And
Wow.
then I did a series called After Hours on CBC. We go to nightclubs and bars telling you what's happening around town. So my career was, and the press was writing about me. They'd write, who's this guy? We're used to seeing white bread. We now see pumpernickel, because of my American accent and my crazy shtick. But when I was doing the After Hours show, a producer hired me because I guess they never saw anybody like me. And then they were having auditions with other girls as my co-host, and they wanted to see where I had chemistry with. And then after they hired me and we were doing some episodes, he left. Another producer came on, then he left. And then a female producer came on who hated my shtick, hated my comedy. And I hate to be a big word, but hated my shtick, my burlesque, my vaudeville, my one-liners. They would write them. She would write in my scripts, no jokes, no funny lines, don't make faces. And that's why they hired me. That's why the original producer hired me. So they tried to tone me down. And then the press would, Rita Zekas would write, what happened to Bronstein? Right? And then after I left that show, I did a series called Doghouse, which was like Mr. Red. I don't know if you know, anyone knows who Mr. Red was, a talking horse when I grew up in the 60s,
Yep,
the 1860s.
absolutely.
So after I did the dog series Doghouse for USA Network, I wasn't getting any work. And I tell my agent, I'm an American. I have an American accent. People are saying, you should be working all the time, David, because all the American movies are coming up. And he would say, David, it's so slow. It's slow. Business is slow. And I would tell people my agent couldn't book Lassie into a kennel. So as my career was, I thought skyrocketed. When USA Network, a big platform, my family was watching in Philly. I was all over the United States. And then I wasn't getting any gigs. So my personality is I can't wait for action. I can't wait for the phone to ring. I've always been an entrepreneur. I said, I'll buy my way on television. So I came up with an idea called The Meat Market, which was a show for dating. But it was a regular show. And like Love Connection, because Love Connection, I think, was hot at that time. But coming up with ideas are easy. Facilitating the ideas are real hard. So once I came up with the idea, now I got to pitch it to sponsors because they got to pay for the production. And then I have to pitch to networks. And I can't wait for anything to get greenlit. I can't put myself in a position where somebody's going to decide on my career or my destiny or I can't do it. So I'm in bed with my wife. I think it was my wife. Hope she not want to listen to this. And while the Arsenio Hall show was on, we don't watch Arsenio Hall. We're watching Johnny Carson. I don't know why we had Arsenio Hall on. And does anybody of your followers know who Johnny Carson is? And after Arsenio Hall, the Nia Peebles party machine came on, which was Hot Girls Dancing. And I said to Andrea, I think it was Andrea. I said to Andrea, those girls are so hot. There should be a phone number to chat with those girls. So while I'm in bed and thinking my career and how to make money and how to skyrocket, I had that idea. Great. And now what am I going to do? So now that I had the idea of putting girls on television, I now, and on the 976 numbers, I said, well, put a 900 number on to chat with the girls because I can't wait for sponsorship. I had meetings with Labatt's to sponsor the show. I can't wait. So the fastest way was to book airtime and not have to wait for sponsors to pay for the ads. I'll just put a 900 number on so I can make money when they're calling the number. But the whole point of it was, I'm not in the dating business. This was before Match.com and eHarmony, before apps, before dating sites. There was none of that. It was personal ads in the newspaper. You didn't know who you were going to. Some girl, I'm hot, I'm beautiful, and they look like, Kris Jenner. Is that who it is? Kris Jenner turns into a guy, into a girl. Who the hell knows? So the whole purpose was to buy my way on television as a performer, and dating was just an angle to pay for the airtime. So because I'm not technically, as you know, oriented, I didn't have 976 numbers, and I didn't know how to call Bell and get T1s and get an IVO. I know nothing about that. But I saw there's ads in the paper. So I would get in touch with the company or the entrepreneurs that running 976 numbers and phone sets, and they were booking ads in the newspaper for $25 a call, something like that. And I said, I'm David Bronstein. I have this idea to put girls on television. And no, they never heard of it. But they thought, hey, that's a great idea. We don't know what to do. I said, I'll produce the shows because I got experience from the CBC show After Hours because we'd go to clubs and bars with a crew, like a news crew, with one cameraman, one sound guy, one editor. So I learned how to do that being on CBC and doing my jokes and shtick until that producer came on and said, don't do jokes, don't do shtick, don't do one-liners. Oh, God. So with all that said, I would pitch it to these guys that had 976 numbers to put girls on TV. They would pay me a $10,000 producer fee. And I would do a show called Night Encounters, Love and Passion, Dream Dates, whatever the bullshit was. And I would do my Catskill jokes in the show. And the shit does, go to the phone, what are you looking at me for? And the girls became my straight men. So I would do the joke. And one of the jokes was, I would say to a girl, the girl said, hey, Dave, I had a dream about you last night. I said, you had a dream about me? He said, yeah, I dreamt that you and Tom Cruise were chasing me. I said, oh, you had a dream me and Tom Cruise were chasing you? That was a fantastic dream. She says, no, it was a nightmare. I said, why was it a nightmare? She says, you caught me. I always put the girls on a pedestal, and I was always the fall guy. I was always the guy getting the pie in the face. I just thought of that now while I'm telling, because it's bringing back memories of the jokes I did then. So, but when these entrepreneurs who had these 976 numbers, they all made me. I was offered a piece of the action. That's where the real cash is at, in the call money, not the $10,000 producer fee, which I was thrilled to get. And they would book the airtime, but they would never give me the telephone money. So the shows would air, and I was getting airtime, and people would see me, and it was all on their dime, which was my whole purpose. David Bronstein doing shtick with bikini girls and all that crap, and I would edit the show. But the real money, and they were skyrocketing. They couldn't believe the kind of cash, because on newspaper money, it was trickles of calls coming in, and they had girls working in their phone rooms paying $6 an hour, whether they got a call or not, these girls. And the girls would be reading a book, reading a magazine, doing homework, waiting for a call to come in for phone sex. So when television hit, a huge volume of calls would come in, and these guys that were used to newspaper ads were not used to that. But every time I get screwed out of a deal, I have to go to another guy, a competitor, and pitch again, and hopefully they'd be straight with me. And then one of these guys that I was booking the airtime with, booking the TV infomercial time with, he said, Dave, stop making money for everybody else. You and I will go in business together, and we'll start our own company, and we'll make money together. So that's how that happened. His name was Andrew Wells, my business partner at that time. And he, yes, and he, I remember we were on the corner of Charles and Young and Charles. Yes. Thank you. We're having a water. It's very important. Water heater's putting in right now. Water. I don't know what. We're renovating the whole mansion. They have to tell me the water heater's on. My wife's already busy. She's watching Young and the Restless right now, so she can't talk to the guys putting in the water heater. That's very, very important. So, and what's happening with Victor Newman? So while I'm standing in the corner of Young and Charles, we shook hands, and he said, "We're going to be the biggest infomercial company." And when you're in your 20s, I don't know how old I was, 20s or 30s, you late 20s, and you hear you're going to be a big star and all that, which I heard constantly. Dave, you're so talented. Of course, I have all those aspirations, all those dreams, and you hope it's going to happen. So when he says, Dave, we're going to be the biggest infomercial company, I said, yeah, sure, that'll be great. But then it happened, and so Andrew mortgaged his house for $40,000, and he had a wife. He didn't have any kids then. I had kids then, and we took $20,000, and I produced another show called Dial a Date. And he got an IVR system, and we put 10 Bell lines in. He dealt with Bell and the contracts. And I just did what I did, which is produce the show, write the show, book the airtime, because I knew how to do that, and hire the girls to do the shtick with me and all that stuff. So we took $20,000. I produced the show. I took $7,000 and produced the show. And I took $20,000 and I put that on television. We booked $20,000 in infomercial time in March of 1995. And in April, we got a check for $104,000. So you put $20,000 on the pass line and you get a check for $104,000. And I remember Andrew gave me the check, and our offices was in Yorkville across from Harry Rosen. It's a condo now, but it was a little small office. Our desk was a bridge table and 4 bridge chairs his mother gave us. And my desk was a windowsill where I had little Post-it notes all over the window. I didn't care about the nice carpets and all that bullshit. My focus was to make money and be successful. I didn't care about the luxury of what we were doing. And I remember walking to the bank with $104,000, and my dreams of show business flew out the window because I like this cash now. Mm-hmm. And we parlayed that money and kept booking more airtime and more, because we always made more money. But Bell and our 900 system could not differentiate between what times we were on, what stations we were on. So we had the same 900 number running from 12:30 in the morning, 12:30 to 1, 1:30 to 2, 2:30 to 3. Every half hour was running till 5 o'clock in the morning, just like this. And we had no idea if some stations were making us money, other stations may not have making us money, because it was the same 900 number. We couldn't differentiate, but it didn't matter, because guys were billing on their phone bills $20,000 a month, $40,000 a month, calling that 900 number there, chatting with our girls, because the call, we only let it go on for 15 minutes. So you call the number, it connects to a girl, you're talking to her for 15 minutes, and then disconnects you. You have to call back. You don't have to call back, but they kept calling back, where my competitors who had phone sex lines, 976 lines, they thought, the guy's on for 3 minutes, 6 minutes, they hang, but it wasn't phone sex with us. They wanted relationships with these girls, so they wanted to keep talking to them because they were lonely. So some my phone sex guys couldn't believe this, but somehow we figured out that's where the real action is, or the success is. The world's so lonely, just want to talk to somebody. And we were getting checks from Bell Canada for $500,000 a month, $800,000 a month, and we were spending $250,000 a month on TV. So you spend $250,000 on television, and you get a check for $800,000. So that was the success of Dial-A-Date, because my agent, who I would say couldn't book Lassie into a kennel, and when I told him, I said, I'm going to do this Dial-A-Date thing, and he said, if you do that, it's going to be bad for your career. I said, what career? Let him give me a career. I had to do something to make money because he wasn't getting many gigs. And that gave me the notoriety, exactly what I wanted it to do, to give me notoriety as a performer or as an actor or whatever the hell, doing Catskill jokes and being David Bronstein. And when I would say, what are you looking at me for? Go to the phone and call. That was real because it was costing me money for the airtime. So I say, don't look at me. Get off the couch. Get out of bed. Go to the phone and call. I was serious.
I was going to say, you came across as very, very genuine there. I've got a little tiny clip of you at work here. I'm just going to play for the audience and then get you to drill down on the whole Prince of Love persona. But this is a short clip, but it'll give the viewers an idea of your patented approach. Here we go.
Party. You know, ever since I've been hosting Dial-A-Date, people recognize me all the time, especially when I'm in a restaurant. They're always coming over to my table and saying, hey, you're that guy from TV, or you're so funny. Well, can I have your autograph? And you know, I'm so flattered. I tell everybody the same thing. Get the hell away from me, I'm trying to eat. Which is why you should go to the phone and call, because all the people you're seeing are real single women and men, and you can talk live when you call the number. It's private, confidential, one-on-one, and discreet. And you can talk about whatever you want, and you can meet whoever you want. These are the same people you see in the clubs and bars where you're too chicken to talk to. But now you can't talk when you go to the phone and call. No one's going to hang up on you. No one's going to reject you. You will never get rejected. Rejection is the worst feeling in the world. Who needs it? So what are you looking at me for? Get off the couch, get out of bed, go to the phone and call the number. Go to the phone, pick it up. And the next time you see me in a restaurant, come over and say hello. I'm just kidding about it.
That is a riot.
Tremendous. That's tremendous, as we say in the pro wrestling business. You came across as very I always found it was an interesting combination of obviously a performer and a very funny guy, but you came across as very sincere and urgent in that line about getting off the couch, get up. And you know, some folks have said, man, that guy has massive energy. So how did you develop that? I don't have a clip, but at the start, you always said, I'm David Bronstein, the Prince of Love. And I would pop for that. How did you develop that persona?
I entertain myself every day. And because the world is so nutty and my world is so nutty, I find humor in situations that are illogical. And that's how, otherwise I jump off a bridge because everything is so cockamamie. That's the only way I could deal with the nuttiness. So when I worked in the Catskills, I was known as the Prince of Comedy, which is just overplaying shtick, because the hotel I worked at was Brown's Hotel, where Jerry Lewis got his start. And everything in this hotel, Brown's Hotel, was Jerry Lewis murals, Jerry Lewis on the schedule, Jerry Lewis menus, and he was my idol growing up, Jerry Lewis. And with Gene Martin and all the movies. As a kid, I used to go see all those movies. And I was lucky enough to perform with Jerry Lewis, which is another thing, but known as the Prince of Comedy. So when I became the Prince of Love, I just took the Prince of Comedy to the Prince of Love. and being so, I don't want to use the word, I'm overplaying it. And I'm thinking that the audience is going to see the overplaying, hey, baby, hey, gorgeous, hey, because I'm portraying all the guys that are in the nightclubs trying to pick up girls. And I was always too chicken to talk to girls when I was in a nightclub, when I was in high school. But playing that character, I could say, hey, gorgeous, hey, you're hot, sweetheart, because I would, so that's, I overplayed the character that I always not wanted to be, but I would like to be, that cool Rock Hudson, Tab Hunter guy. So that's what I did, and having fun, and me going, it's private. I'm just entertaining myself. When I'm going, it's private, confidential. It's all making so much fun over the top. That's why I was doing it, because I was having fun with myself doing this nuttiness. Because the other show, the producer of the other show said, don't make jokes, do funny lines, don't do this. So this was giving me, I could do whatever I want. It's my show. So I'll be as wild and cockamamie. And that's why I did. And that's why I was the Prince of Love, because I just changed it from the Prince of Comedy, Prince of Love. And, it's so, somebody knows if it was the real Bachelor, where they're all so debonair, and they're all, I'm the complete opposite of that. So that's why I call myself the Prince of Love, because I'm the opposite of those debonair. My wife watches Love Island. Is that what it's called, Love Island?
I think
with
so,
all the
yeah.
Good-looking guys and I'm portraying that in a over-the-top way. So, yes, that's all. Yes, because nothing like that, right?
But when you said it's funny because when you open the show with that, you're obviously if you watch more of the commercial, you can see you've got inspirations are like the Catskills comedians, Don Rickles, Henny Youngman. You can see all of that. But I always thought when you open the show, you were so sincere. You said, I'm David Bronstein, the Prince of Love. And you weren't laughing or overly smart. You could tell it was a character, but man, that's the best work I think a character person can do is really get into the character and believe what you're saying.
Isn't that funny? Because I always thought that everyone could see right through me, that the prince, the jackets I wore, the red jacket, the blue jacket, that's the only way I could tell if it's a new show. Even though I did new jokes in every show, and we called it show 1, 2, 3, 4, but I was editing the new shows or booking. We'd have booked different shows by the yellow. That's why I have a different color jacket. That's how I could tell it was a different show. And we had different girls, and I had different jokes, but it all looks the same. In a nightclub, I could shoot the show in my basement with a mirror ball. Nobody know the difference. It's all the same to me, but I appreciate you saying I sounded sincere, and I was just having fun. I was just having fun with myself playing that crazy character that I played.
Which obviously, I mean, you made an impression on a whole generation, because you're remembered fondly. We're having this discussion, whereas other infomercial folks are lost in the sands of time. But I wanted to ask you, in terms of the filming process, did you do it exclusively at the Limelight, and how did you get the various I don't want to say performers, but the girls in the infomercial, and you had a couple with some guys too, in the interest of fair play. So how did that all come together?
I must have called. The Limelight was always great to us. I just called the club and said, I'm David Bronstein. We're going to put you on television. They all love that, and we gave the Limelight a plug. And other clubs too in Toronto, which I can't remember. They were all great to us, but we would shoot in the afternoon. I think on a Saturday afternoon, because the clubs were so loud you couldn't hear anything I was saying, and you couldn't hear what the girls were saying. So we would shoot on a Saturday afternoon, like that opening that you showed there, and there'd be no music playing. We'd say dance behind me. It was staged like making a movie. And the script was all scripted, all my jokes and one-liners. I think I had 10 pitches, which were with 10 minutes of footage, and then 10 minutes of people saying, hi, I'm Lucy, I like to go to the movies, and then 10 minutes of stock footage. So I had it broken down to 10, 10, 10, which is 30 minutes. And then after we'd shoot on a Saturday afternoon, so you could hear me doing the shtick and have the girls say, I'm Lisa, I'm Jackie, I'm Alice, and we put in music afterwards. Then we'd go in at night and shoot B-roll or B-reel of actual people dancing and me dancing with the girls. So it looks like it's actually happening that night, when it was 2 days of shooting, sometimes 3 days, but 2 days of shooting. And the girls, we must have had, I know we had ads in the paper to get girls to talk on the phone, and they all work from their homes. But we had to go to a talent agency, I think, because we needed pretty girls and good-looking guys, and we hired them. And I think we must have paid the girls $50 to say, I'm Lucy, I like to go to the movies. I'm Jack, I'm an accountant. And the girls to do shtick with me, we paid them $100 to do the one lines, but that was also rehearsed. The girls, one of the jokes was that, hey, I shot in Las Vegas, and I said, hey, baby, you're kind of cute. What do you do for a living? And she says, I'm a blackjack dealer. I said, oh, you're a blackjack dealer. She says, yeah, I'll lay you 10-1. And I said, oh, you lay me 10-1? She says, yeah, I'll lay you 10-1. And I say, well, it's an odd time, but I'll be there. So it's a setup and a punchline. It's just regular, all Dick Van Dyke comedy sitcoms from the 60s. Set up and a punchline. That's all it was. So the girls we got it from a talent agency, and the girls from home, they called us for a job, and they worked from home. We paid them 25 cents a minute to talk on the phone. We paid them by the minute. 25 cents a minute is $15 an hour. We were paying, and this was in 1995, 96, 97. And people like to make $15 an hour now, and we were paying that in 1995, 96, 97. But I shot a lot in Toronto. I also shot in New Jersey. I shot in California. I shot in Las Vegas. And all the clubs are great, and all the girls are great. They're all real pros. They were all great to work with. It was all very professional, and it was like making a movie. That's what it was like.
Did I know some of the individuals that called the line thought that they were actually talking to somebody either in the club or the show was, or the commercial was live at the time that they called? Did it seemed to be that you were kind of straddling the line about it's called dial a date, but you're saying you can talk about whatever you want. So there was some innuendo there. Did the guys that called actually think that they were going to date the person that they were talking to, the girl? And did you know of any situations where real life meetups took place?
All the girls in the show were given code numbers to log into the system. So they were all the real girls on television that could log in and talk to guys, whatever it was. And the system was sophisticated, where Andrew was technically oriented with that the guy would call the 900 number. Then he'd hear a bunch of, hi, I'm Lucy, hi, I'm Jack, hear a bunch of greetings of girls on the telephone, and which could be those girls on my dating show. And if he punched in that code number, the girl's phone at home would ring, and he would not have her phone number, but the system would call the girl. And then the system would say, hi, this is Dial a Day calling. Connect, press 1 to connect. And if she pressed 1, she'd start making money, and he would connect with her. So all the girls in the show were available if they called in during the show to chat. But because we had to guarantee there was somebody to talk to, so we also paid other girls at home and had schedules that they'd always be on the line, that the guy would always have somebody to talk to. So yes, they could talk to the girls in the show, and if they happened to call in at that time, but there was always somebody. And the guys were thrilled. If they saw a hot blonde and they want to talk to her, and they connected to anybody, they were thrilled to talk to anybody. So the girls in the show were the soft sell to get them to call. But then when they connected, they never said, I don't want to talk to you. They were thrilled to talk to anybody. So that's how that went down.
Did they ever get to your knowledge? Maybe you don't know this, but because it was dating and not phone sex, was there ever a situation where they actually dated the girl that they happened to connect with, or was that just part of the fantasy, so to speak?
I know somebody met a butcher in Hamilton. I know that because the girl told me she met a butcher, one of our dating sites. But it was none of my business. Hey, say, hey, did you meet anybody? That wasn't that was between them. It was too personal for me to get in. But I do know, got so much gas I could drive to Pittsburgh. I do know that the girls that work for us did meet guys, because when they would come in to get their checks, that Andrew would take care of the accounting and all that stuff, they would tell us that they would talk to guys. So yes, I would say talk about anything you want, because I thought that's what the guys wanted based on the 976 guys. But knowing that they kept billing on their phone bills and constantly talking to the same girl and falling in love with the same girl, and the girls could meet with them. We didn't say, you can't meet anybody. It was a dateline, and we didn't care who met with who. And so they did hook up. It wasn't my business to ask them, so what's going on?
Yeah. you're not the headmaster, so to speak. Did that also part of your pitch about rejection? You're never going to be rejected. Rejection's the worst thing in the world. Nobody likes it, and here you won't experience that. Was that something deliberately from a psychological point of view you integrated into your pitch there?
Yes,
I
yes.
assume
It
it
was
would.
also like to say, for being as young as I was, and Saturday Night Fever, and the way the world was, going to clubs, trying to meet somebody, rejection, all that crap. That it's so hard to meet people and all that stuff. So yes, I specifically said, if you call this number, you're not going to be rejected, because everyone's afraid of rejection. Even today, they're afraid of rejection. So that, and they weren't, because if they called, they're always going to connect to one of our girls who's going to talk to you. And I remember, I got to remember something that we had a telephone. Now we had landlines, and I would call into the system and always hear how many calls, how much money. And I got to tell you, Jack, right? I know who I'm talking. I got to tell you, some days I would call into the phone system before I'd go to bed at night, and it said, we made 50 grand. Now I'm laughing now, but,
Wow.
and then I would wake up Saturday morning, and Andrew, my business partner, just the two of us, two guys, that's all it was, would call me and say, there are no girls on the line. We got to start calling the girls, because if guys are calling, there's nobody to talk to. Because it could be like 10 o'clock in the morning, Saturday morning, because the shows ran 1:30 in the morning, 2 o'clock, 3:30 in the morning, 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock in the morning. So I'd have to get on the phone, and we had our girls, our phone girls, and say, could you, they weren't scheduled, but and the girls we did schedule, they didn't come on. So we had to ask, would you go on? So there'd be girls to talk to. So in talking to you now, I remember we would have to do that. But we were the owners of the company, so we had to do whatever we have to do all the time. That was
Amazing.
the upside. Yes.
Amazing. A fan on social media asked about, they remember you from After Hours, and you've talked a little bit about some of the creative constraints that you had on there, but overall they wanted to know, because the CBC is a much different entity in the modern era. I think CBC, when I was young and coming up, was a real fun kind of broadcast network, and I think they've pretty much lost all of that. So when you were working for them, did you find it prior to the the ridiculous direction to become unfunny? How did you find it? And they were asking about your host on After Hours too, who did a lot of stuff for CBC as well.
Alex Simini was my host. My agent at the time that got me that gig first was the Edward G Agency, and I got the gig through the Edward G Agency, and they hired me first. I had auditions with a bunch of girls, and then Alex came in, and they liked the chemistry. Alex and I had more chemistry than DuPont. But when they hired us, I was new to Toronto, because I came to Toronto in 87. I got the Al Pacino gig in 88, and I got After Hours in 89. The office was at Church and Church Street on the corner. There was a telephone booth, I remember. And the producer was Steve Scanny. I think he became a big producer, who hired me at the time. And they hired these writers to write our scripts. And I would go to work at 7 o'clock at night. And I'd get to the office, because it was a nightlife show. So we go to clubs and bars and restaurants. And I'd get home 1 o'clock in the morning. They'd give me the script, and I'd go into the van to take me to the location. I would read the script in the van, and then go on location, and then shoot the shows. And one of the writers was mad at me that when they gave me the script in the office at 7 o'clock at night, that I wouldn't look it over and show my appreciation, because I love show business and I love performing. Anything related to performing and acting and creativity, I was great at, because I loved it. So as you have a passion for anything, you're a writer of a book or a painter, you know how talented you are, because you love it so much. So of course, when they gave me the script, I'd read it. I didn't have to read it in the office. I read it in the van on the way to location. I never screwed up, and I always one take Dave, they would call me, because I knew what I was doing. And I would say to this one writer, why do I have to show my appreciation? You wrote the script. That's your job. They're paying you to write the script. This isn't high school where I have to appreciate. That's your job. My job's to read the script. I remember when you asked me these questions, I remember that her name was Jennifer. She was mad that I wouldn't show my appreciation that she wrote the script.
So some things haven't changed at CBC then after all.
But I do remember when I got the gig, they offered me $1,016 a week. Oh, Jesus, how did I get? I'm on notifications or whatever it is. How did I get a call? Can you hear me?
You're in demand, but you're back. You were saying you got $1,000 an offer a week?
Hold on. You can hear me now?
Yes, sir. Can you hear me?
I don't know how I'm on notifications. My kid says,
they put
on notifications. How did I get a call? Notifications.
Strange. Can you hear me now?
Anyway, you can hear me, right? All right. So they're paying me $1,016. I ran downstairs. I called my mother. She was in Philadelphia. And I said, Mom, I'm getting $1,016. You'll never have to worry about money again. I couldn't believe it. Oh, my God, $1,000 a week. I was so thrilled to get that. And that's what I got. What's that? Oh, so that's what I remember about the CBC. But then when Steve Scanny left, then they hired a sports producer. He left. Then they hired another female producer who hated what I did. And they told me no jokes, no funny lines, no faces, no shtick. Would you call Andrew? He just called us. And they said, Dave, Canadians like subtle cerebral humor. That Canadians like subtle cerebral humor. Look on your texts. Subtle cerebral humor. I thought, what's subtle cerebral humor? I don't even know what it is today. Subtle cerebral humor. And then they fired me. They hated my shtick. And then after they fired me, then it was Alex Amini who just hosted the show. And then the show was canceled in 6 months after that. So that's what happened with the CBC. And you can hear me okay?
Yes. Can you hear me?
I can't hear you.
Again. How about you talk about this?
Send him an email.
This deal with Ron Jeremy. Can you talk about working with Ron?
You know the answers.
Can you talk about working with Ron?
Well, everyone could. Yeah. Well, here we go. Jack. I can't hear you again, and I'm on notifications.
Okay, I'll kick you out and bring you back.
Hold up signs.
I'll kick you out and bring you back. Sorry, fans, that has happened for some reason with David, but we've got through a lot of the interview today, so that's a positive, no doubt. I was going to ask him about this this particular publicity photo. I'm assuming it was taken when he was in Las Vegas to film some of the Dial-A-Date. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
You can hear me?
Yeah.
Right on. See, sometimes you just have to start again. I was going to ask you about this. A fan asked about this publicity shot in Vegas. I'm assuming when you were there with Ron Jeremy. Was he involved in any of your shoots or just happened to be there?
Because of my popularity, I did the shows from 95, 96, 97. And then my business partner said, Dave, we have 8 shows in the can. What do I need you for? That's what he said. What do I need you for? 8 shows. I'll just keep running the same shows. And I said, okay, that's fine. I said, so buy me out, which he did. And I said, what are we going to do with the shows? He said, well, you keep them and I'll keep them. I said, all right. Now, when I produce the shows, in every show, I always say, call the number on the screen. I never tell the number. So by saying call the number on the screen, I could always superimpose and edit any number I want because I'm not saying call a specific number. So I had all the masters that I could put any number on. So I started selling the shows to my competitors. So I sold right out of the gate when he bought me out in, I think, March of 97. I sold 5 shows for $50,000 US. I'm in Canada, and I was selling to my competitors in the United States, and at $10,000 a show. And for that one guy that I sold it to, I went on a cruise with the family, which is another podcast I'll do with you. And then another show, because the only cruise I've been on, I won't go on a cruise again because I like lavish stuff. But this cruise, the room was on this boat, the cabin was so small. When I put in the key, I broke the mirror. The mice were walking hunchback. When I was combing my hair, some strands fell on the floor. I had wall-to-wall carpeting. That's how small the room was, the cabin.
That's small. That's small.
So then I told him to other people where if Andrew said, Dave, I'll pay for the rights of the shows, but I just kept, and because of that, and I was selling them to my competitors in the United States, and they were putting their phone numbers on it, and I'm getting to the Ron Jeremy story, my shows ran in Las Vegas and in Boston and in Miami. So when I would go to the United States in Philly, where I'm from, I got recognized wherever I went. I wasn't making any money off those shows, but again, my whole purpose was notoriety and all that stuff. So when I did those shows, I got a call from another business associate that was friends with Ron, and he wanted to do a show about strippers. And American Idol was very popular at the time. So he wanted to do a show called American Stripper. And it was like American Idol, but for strippers. And because he was friends with Ron, he wanted Ron to be one of the judges. So he hired me to produce this series, which I have, I think, 6 or 7 or 10 episodes in the can that we can do other podcasts and I can give you the footage and all that stuff. And he booked Ron. And again, I'm the host. I'm the Ryan Seacrest. And he hired a porn star, Sonny Lane, who was in that picture. And they were 2 judges, and I'm Ryan Seacrest. Yes, and we shot in Toronto. We shot at Fillmore's, and we shot at other strip clubs. And we shot at, and we shot at other, in Las Vegas. We shot at wonderful clubs in Las Vegas. I can't think of the name of the clubs. They were all great. And we shot at the House of Lancaster in Toronto. And Ron came in, and then we went to Las Vegas, went to Los Angeles, and Ron was so intelligent. I know people think, oh my God, Ron Jeremy, the porn star, all that bullshit. He was a teacher, and he's so smart and so funny and so intelligent that if you didn't know he was a porn star, you wouldn't know he's a porn star. And wherever we went, and I'll tell you wherever we went, when I was shooting in Las Vegas, we went to see, and he was friends with all the celebrities. We went to see Howie Mandel. And afterwards, he said, come on, Dave, I'll take you backstage to see Howie Mandel. And we went backstage to see Howie Mandel, and we're taking pictures, and Ron was there. And it was called the Howie Mandel Theater at the MGM in Las Vegas. And we walked out of the Howie Mandel Theater into the lobby with Howie Mandel. All the fans came over and said, there's Ron Jeremy. They were all excited to see Ron Jeremy. And Howie Mandel was so hysterical saying, I'm the star, it's my theater. I'm the star of the show. And they're all excited to see Ron Jeremy.
But there's only one hedgehog.
Yes. And of course, all the girls in the strip clubs were all excited to see Ron Jeremy. And again, we were shooting, there was some porn, not a convention, a porn party or something like that. And we were scheduled to shoot with Ron in Los Angeles at 9 o'clock at night. And he didn't show up. And I had to call my producers, my investors. I said, we have a crew here, and we have all these porn stars at this party, but Ron's not here. What am I supposed to do? I said, Dave, when you get lemons, make lemonade. So I said, well, I got to do something. So the whole segment, which is very funny, is me looking for Ron at this porn party because I had to do something, and I didn't know who the very famous porn stars. If anyone watches porn, which I didn't. I just didn't. I don't know why. I just didn't watch porn. I like girls. I like Playboy and Penthouse, all those Mad Magazine, but I didn't know any of these porn stars, which I'm sure everybody did know. And my shtick was, are you famous? Are you a big porn star? And all the porn stars thought it was very funny and endearing that I did not know who they are, because all the other people that were lascivious and salivating, and they were like the wolf in the Warner Brothers cartoons, their eyes bulging out, their tongue hanging on the floor, and I didn't know who they were. And one girl said, I said, are you famous? She said, yes. I said, well, what are you doing in porn? I think she said, she works with guys now, but she used to be with girls. I said, you're with guys, but you used to be with girls? She said, yeah. I said, what a coincidence. Me too. Something like that. I don't know what the hell. But it's the shtick. One girl said her name is, she was wearing a bikini top or something. She said her name is Schwinn. And I said, Schwinn like the bicycle? She said, yeah. I said, I'd like to take a ride on that. So it was very, they just set me up with being a comic and however I think, Jonathan Winters, I'm sure all your fans know who that is.
Yes.
Jonathan Winters said, I can show you how to be funny. I could show you to put on a little hat and take a cane and put a mustache. I could show you how to fall into a manhole cover or slip on a banana peel, but I can't teach you how to be funny. I can't teach you how to think funny. I can't teach you how to think funny. I could teach you how to be funny, but I can't teach you how to think funny. So I think funny. So when I do my TikToks or whatever I do, many of my followers say, how do you come up with your material, whatever it is? There's no material to come up with. I walk out of the house. This morning I was getting dressed. I was buttoning my shirt. My button fell off. I went to pick up my briefcase. The handle fell off. I went to open the doorknob. The doorknob fell off. I was afraid to go to the bathroom. So when I walk out of the house, the world is my comedy writers. That's what it is. I don't have to look to see. It's just, I don't know why. So that's why I did it. So Ron was part of this show called American Stripper, and he was a great guy to work with, and he would critique the strippers, and some strippers were great performers, and they were all great, but that's why he's in that series I did called American Stripper. And it's interesting what happened, whatever happened, I don't know what that nuttiness occurred, but.
Did it air, or did it get picked up? Or?
No, I shot, I think I have 10 episodes, I think. And then I was talking to Fremantle that distributed American Idol. But they didn't have a distributor. They didn't have a producer. I had to do everything. I wrote it. Again, like Dyla did. I wrote it. I booked the clubs. I booked the girls. I had to do it all. It was too much. I can't do it all. I need a whole team. And these were just a bunch of rich doctors. It was a bunch of rich doctors that had a lot of money that wanted to play with girls. Not play with them. I wanted to be part of the adult scene, whatever they thought my world was. Mm-hmm. Because the illusion of me on television with dating and all that crap is just an illusion, because we didn't shoot it when the club was actually happening. We shot it, in the afternoon. And when I shot at the strip clubs, they were all pros. All the girls were pros, and yes. They're called. I remember I would go with my family to Las Vegas for 2 weeks, and I have dinner, and then I have to go to the nightclub. I was so tired. All I wanted to do was gamble, but I had to go to the strip club 11 o'clock at night with the crew. And I'm at 11 o'clock and having the girl. I'm Susie, I'm Jackie, whatever the hell they're saying. And it's 4 o'clock in the morning. And I said to the crew, I got to go to bed. I can't keep my head up. I can't. You got to finish up here. I can't do it. So I leave the strip club and I give directions to the crew to finish this up. And I walk outside. There's a line of people with arc lights and limousines pulling up like 1 o'clock in the afternoon. And this is Las Vegas at 4 o'clock in the morning. I have to go to sleep, and they're just coming to the strip club. Mm-hmm. That's this nutty world. So that's why Rob was in there. But both of them, Sonny, I know people think, porn stars have sex all day and all that stuff. It's just a job. It's a job, as the girls in OnlyFans or whatever it is. They're performers, and that's really the way it is.
Mm-hmm. Well, that is a definitely interesting piece of television history. Just sitting there. Maybe someday it will come to light. Everybody's looking for content. You mentioned though earlier that these checks were enormous, but for those folks that don't remember, back in the day there was the actual landline, either attached to the wall or a cordless or what have you. There was before cell phones became, the phenomenon smartphones that they are now. Can you talk about some of the issues that you had that impinged on your bottom line because it was a landline?
So guys would pick up the phone, they call the 900 line for $50. The call would be 15 minutes. The system would disconnect and they call back. They didn't write down how many times am I calling back. I just spent $100. They just call. They want to talk to girls. Then it's call. Then you get a phone bill for $20,000 or $40,000. Then they'd call the phone company and say, I didn't call that. It was my nephew, my sister-in-law, my cousin came over. And then Bell would say, okay, don't pay it. And then in March of 97, we had spent $250,000 in February, $250,000 in February, and was expecting a statement in March for $700,000 or so based on what the system was telling us. And we got a statement, and it had the number 700,000, but we owed Bell $700,000 in March of 1997. And they compiled all these chargebacks of guys saying, I didn't call, it was my nephew, my cousin, some neighbor came over, I don't know how it happened. And they put all at once in one statement versus for that previous month, normalcy, 10% chargebacks, 5%, 20%. It was 100% chargeback all at once. So we put $250,000 in February on television, and in March we owed Bell $700,000. We didn't get that we threw it out the window. So we had shows airing that night, and we said, what are we going to do now? We're not going to get that money. So our media buyer and me and Andrew, and I called my wife, we started pulling out the phone line out of the walls, because if guys were going to call that night, because we had airtime booked, Bell was going to get all that money. We weren't going to get it. So we tried to put in regular phone lines and have girls take calls, try to get credit card. Hi, give me your credit card number. But that was not the business model. But then we had to hire a lawyer and go after Bell for that reason. And then we set up another company, and we did it again. And then we became a service bureau for other clients that wanted to be in the 976 number. But then Andrew said to me, Dave, I'm just going to buy you out and I don't need you now. I have 8 shows in the can. I'll just keep running the same shows. And that's what happened there. So, but we had a great run from 95 to 97 for 2 years. It was a great run. And it made me, not a star, but made me a celebrity across Canada, in the United States. It did what it was supposed to do. And to have the 900 number on was to pay for the airtime, to give David Bronstein notoriety, because I couldn't wait to get hired as a performer. So I gave myself a job. That's what I did. I gave myself a job. So that's what it did.
That makes sense. In terms of the modern era, your infomercials were a transition from the print ads, and now we've come so far in terms of the dating apps, et cetera, but now we seem to be on the precipice where actual live girls or whoever will be outmoded by artificial intelligence. And there's still this loneliness in some people that will make that a never-ending source of income for those savvy enough to take a look at it. What are your thoughts on artificial intelligence in the way that we're seeing it? For example, this past year, there's been a couple of shows on the dangers of AI in terms of people developing full-blown relationships with AI, and it ended tragically in a couple of situations. So how do you feel about that kind of outmoding traditional dating, or the potential to?
What? When I was doing the dating shows, the next step was to create a Match.com or eHarmony or a dating site. That was perfect for me for somebody that had that technology or knew how to, and take my brand and just do it online. But I always see the future. I'm always up to. I had my nose fixed. My mouth doesn't work. I see opportunities. My Achilles heel is finding management and teams to facilitate the opportunities. So we should have been Bumble and Tinder and all these apps, and that should have been the next step for me. And now with AI dates and AI loneliness, yes, I see that, and I created a whole folder, and I created a whole business model, and kids are already making a fortune. When I say kids, college kids, they already have AI dates that people are falling in love with AI dates, and I'm in. So if any of your followers wanted, yes, it should be branded the Prince of Love AI dates, and that's what I want to do. Loneliness is a huge opportunity here because it never goes away, and I'm in on the deal. Whatever you want to do, yes, I think it's great. AI is taking over the world. I'm in on all that stuff. Yes, I'm in.
But you don't have a problem, notwithstanding the lucrative nature of these opportunities. You don't have a problem with, when, for example, when somebody called Dial a Date, they talk to an actual human being on the other end. You don't see a problem philosophically, like to separate business. And I think a Prince of Love, David Bronstein, 2,000 years from now, the whole deal there, and he would introduce and do his thing for decades and centuries to come. But to separate the business aspect from on a human level, do you think that's a problem or not a problem, that you're going to be interacting with a machine and perhaps losing touch with humanity?
What? Yeah, of course I have a problem with that. What do you mean? I'm very philosophical. And how do you spell philosophical? Yes, I'm philosophical. Oh, yes. Whatever you say, Jack, that's what I am. Yes. Of course, Jack, I didn't. I know many people, my wife's age, she's not watching this. They're divorced, they're separated, they're on these dating sites. It's very hard to meet somebody. When you're on Tinder, nobody shows their real pictures, or their real video, whatever. Still, they don't do that. So you're saying a robot or an animated who they think is real. I know.
No, if they're talking to a machine that they know is a machine, but they get into, they fall in love with the machine.
Well, it's going to happen whether I believe in philosophical or not. It's happening already. There are people tell me this, that people from other countries, they get in touch with girls on Facebook and say, I love you, I adore you. And they send them money. They send these strangers money. They fall in love with these people from other islands or something like that. And that's not real, but they milk them. I don't know how they do it. Would that be the same thing, whether this person?
No, that would be the old Nigerian romance scam from Laos, where they have it's a cottage industry there, where they have actual people posing as others online, and they send them, they take pictures from social media and they send them, and they get them to send money. This is something where a person downloads a program, an AI program, and they start interacting with the girlfriend AI, and they actually fall in love with the AI that's not a human being. But I think your point earlier was very salient, that it's happening. It's going to happen.
From what I read, when I see on YouTube, and I'm in Business Insider magazine, I read Success Magazine and Entrepreneur and Wired and Fast Company, Playboy, Penthouse, Mad. I read all the magazines. There are guys making a fortune doing that. But you're saying that when somebody's talking to these AI models, you think that they know, I know it's a model, I know it's a robot. They actually know that. Yes. But for some reason, they still entertain talking to this robot.
Yes. Then they consider themselves to be in full-blown relationships with. They know it's an algorithm. They know it's a machine, and some of them have married their AI algorithm.
You've read about this? You see this?
Yes, it's a real deal. This year, a lot of coverage has happened about with the advances in AI to become more. Previous years, they've been somewhat choppy, and it wasn't smooth in the communication. Not to mention the visual presentation of a person, but we've made such gains that you would be hard pressed. And when you're interacting with the algorithm, they start knowing what you like a real person, and tailoring their responses to you.
They're so smart. I'm telling you, the entrepreneurs are so smart.
It's a brave new world, isn't it?
Yes, brave new world. It's a whole new world. Yes, it is. I say that all the time. It's a new world. Yes.
So lead, follow, or get out of the way. But David, I really appreciate your time today. It's been fascinating. It's something that I have nothing but good memories from that period of your run there in Dial a Date. Nothing but nostalgia. And whenever I come across your clips, I'm taken back to me all those years ago, and it's good stuff. which I think is probably why so many fans of your work are still out there, and you have a cult following, and you're so fondly remembered because you did that character so well. You couldn't be even half asleep on the couch and have your commercial come on and not be awake and following your every word. But you're still active in many business pursuits. Can you tell the viewers what you're up to and where you can be found on all the socials, etc., that you do? I know you have a really active TikTok account that I don't and we don't, and you get major views there, but you have other platforms too, I'm sure.
So I've always been an entrepreneur. Since I left Dial a Date, I've always been on my own. I'm a hedonist. So I like to have fun. I tell everyone all day my world is carnivals and circuses and cotton candy and snow cones. And I was to CNN yesterday with Andrea taking TikToks. I'm eating cotton candy and candy apples and snow cones. And that's the way my world, and I pitch to my followers, that's the way it should be every day. Never deny yourself anything. Give you the greatest possible lifestyle. But my lifestyle, which is dinners and Broadway shows in Las Vegas, I need a lot of cash to have a lot of fun. So my pitch is to join the David Bronstein $1 Billion Club, which is all true because these kids are making a fortune online. And I said, if you want to be successful, do what successful people do. So even though I'm a performer, I love acting, and that's my passion, and Broadway and movies. I just started a feature film called Junkie Run. If you go to my, I'm on TikTok, David Bronstein 2. So if you go to David Bronstein 2, you can see my link tree, and you see a trailer for the movie I did, Junkie Run, that had a screening last week. That's my goal, my passion, and all the time is acting. But I also need a lot of cash. I like to have a lot of fun. And if I can make a lot of cash acting, that would be, if I'm Brad Pitt to make $20 million a picture, that would be great. So there's two parts to my world. There's making a lot of cash so I can have a lot of fun, and then there's performing. And whenever I get it to make enough money performing, I don't have to do all the bullshit that I do. So I have my own agency called DB Media Brands. And again, I say, what's the fastest way I can make the most cash? And I replicate what everyone else does. So all these kids, these content creators on YouTube like yourself, and podcasts like Joe Rogan and Mr. Beast, and what's with the drink, a Prime Drink, these creators, they're making a fortune.
The Pauls.
Yes, Logan Paul. So I have a branding agency, and we do e-com, we do AI, we do podcasts, we build brands. That's my day-to-day business. Today I met with a brand named Baked by Kelly. She bakes crackers and cookies. She's the next famous Amos. She's the next Evelyn from the Cheesecake Factory. I know nothing about crackers and keto. I don't know what the hell keto. What is that? But I met with her today for 2 hours because there's a lot of cash there. So I know how to make money with an opportunity, and then I put teams together. So if anyone wants to work with me, message me, david@davidbronstein.com. You can see me on TikTok. And the reason that I was on TikTok, I got donuts, a package of donuts, and I opened the lid, and all the custard came off the top onto the lid. So I said to my kid, Jared, how does this happen? Why does the cupcake, the icing, come off? Why does it stay on the cupcake? And Jared said, why don't you do a TikTok about that? So I wasn't even on TikTok then. So I set up an account, and I said, why does this happen? And the next day, Jared said, did you see how many views you got? I said, no. He said, you have 700 views. I said, now I'm on TikTok. So I start being myself on TikTok, not doing Catskill, just situations like this. And it exploded that I have 150,000 followers, all organic, and millions of views. They compare me to Larry David and Jerry Seinfeld. And I'm not trying to be. I'm just myself. When I go to Bagel World and I see a sign that says bagels, half-price bagels, day-old bagels, half price. Day-old bagels, half price. So I do a TikTok. I say, I like to have today's bagels at half price because I won't eat them till tomorrow. And when I do that, it gets 4 million views. I don't know why. I'm doing, I'm back to the Catskills. That's where I am. So I have a brand. So if you're a brand, you're a founder, you're a startup, we invest in other deals. If it makes cash, we're in. So I do business with e-com and freelancers and content creators and influencers. And I get brand offers on TikTok. So Rona got in touch with me on TikTok to pitch their Rona hardware store. And they don't give me a script. I'm like Howard Stern, they let me do whatever I want. So I said, Rona hired me to pitch the Rona hardware. I said, do they know who they hired? I'm a Jew from Philadelphia. I said, what do we know about hardware? We used a butter knife for a screwdriver and a kitchen chair for a ladder. That's what I said. And they paid me $6,000 for that. Is that the craziest thing? These
That's
brands,
awesome.
They let me do whatever I want to do. Because I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know what I'm saying. But that's what I'm doing. So you can get in touch with me either david@davidbronstein.com. If you Google David Bronstein, I'm like horseshit. I'm all over the place. That's such an old line, horseshit, because years ago there were horse and wagons and the horseshit was all over the street. So nobody knows what the hell that means. Horseshit, I'm all over. But I'm like Mr. Burns, and I do it on purpose from the Simpsons. Either you get it or you don't get it. So when I get a haircut, I say I look like Rock Hudson and Tab Hunter. My wife says nobody knows who Rock Hudson and Tab Hunter is, but I don't care. I'm talking about my era that I grew up, the 70s, the 1870s.
There's something to be said for tradition and nostalgia, and I would encourage all the fans watching today to check you out. I want to thank you again for coming on the show. I'm glad we knocked it out with minimal technical disruption. Once again, check out David on TikTok. And if you could do me a favor, I'd love to end the show with one last pitch as if this was Dial-A-Date. If you could do your deal there, get off the couch with the gestures and everything, I'd greatly appreciate it. I'd pop for that.
I'm going to do that. And, I'm going to tell you one more thing, that my fans today, not only my fans like you from the dating shows are my fans, but now their kids are my fans. As I'm their Jerry Lewis. For whatever reason, it's so I got the generation X, Y, Z, and I have who grew up with me with the crazy dating shows. And when I was at CNE yesterday, my fans were stopping me. Young high school, college kids. At the CNE, they're at the food building. They're not looking for Tiny Tom donuts. No, you're the guy from TikTok. And when I'm at Starbucks, I'm at the pizza parlor, and sometimes I post, let's do a TikTok. They're all the fans are wonderful, and I appreciate them all, and they're all great. So yes, I will do regarding Cheap Heat. You want me to do a Dial-A-Date for Cheap Heat? You want me to do that?
No, just hit your signature tagline about what are you waiting for, and the whole deal, and we'll go out with that. I think that would be great.
So what are you looking at me for? Get off the couch, get out of bed, run! Here, call the number on the screen. It's private, confidential, one-on-one in the screen. Go, for God's sakes, get to the phone. Go. Let's go. Go already. Wait, let's go.
Thank you for watching this video. Please give it a like if you enjoyed it. Be sure to follow us on all social media platforms at Cheap Heat Productions. Don't forget to hit the notification